Hello, and thank you for joining us today in our study of the book of Psalms. Today we are in Psalm 59. And as David writes this psalm, we're actually going to jump back in the life of David to rather early in his days, as this one is going to fall at about the time of 1 Samuel chapter 19. This psalm is going to be written by David in his early 20s, based on all of the information that we have. And it is going to be pertaining to the time when Saul is first going to seek to kill David. And so there's going to be a lot of emotion found in this psalm, but I think you're going to find a couple of very interesting statements that are made here in Psalm 59. Let's see what it says. Beginning in verse 1, we read, "Deliver me from my enemies, O my God. Defend me from those who rise up against me. Deliver me from the workers of iniquity, and save me from bloodthirsty men. For look, they lie in wait for my life. The mighty gather against me, not for my transgression, nor for my sin, O Lord. They run and prepare themselves through no fault of mine. Awake to help me, and behold, you therefore, O Lord God of hosts, the God of Israel, awake to punish all the nations. Do not be merciful to any wicked transgressors." At evening they return. They growl like a dog and go all around the city. Indeed, they belch with their mouth. Swords are in their lips, for they say, "Who hears?" But you, O Lord, shall laugh at them. You shall have all the nations in derision. I will wait for you, O you, his strength, for God is my defense. My God of mercy shall come to meet me. God shall let me see my desire on my enemies. Do not slay them, lest my people forget. Scatter them by your power, and bring them down, O Lord our shield. For the sin of their mouth and the words of their lips, let them even be taken in their pride, and for the cursing and lying which they speak. Consume them in wrath. Consume them, that they may not be, and let them know that God rules in Jacob to the ends of the earth. And at evening they return. They growl like a dog, and go all around the city. They wander up and down for food, and howl as if they are not satisfied. But I will sing of your power. Yes, I will sing aloud of your mercy in the morning, for you have been my defense and refuge in the day of my trouble. To you, O my strength, I will sing praises, for God is my defense, my God of mercy. As you examine Psalm 59, there's several things that we could bring out here. Obviously, you have this mentality of one who is being hunted, one who has those who are chasing him, and they are trying to trap him, they are trying to capture him. And so as David deals with this in the course of this psalm, I want you to notice a couple of things that are important, but also some things that we can pull some lessons from. The first is that David says that he has troubles, but they're not because of anything he has done. In verse 3, he says, "It's not for my transgression nor for my sin, O Lord. They run and prepare themselves through no fault of mine." Now, while we are used to people making excuses that people are mistreating them or people are doing things to them and they've not done anything wrong, in this case, it's actually true. David has done nothing against Saul for Saul to react this way, except for the fact that he has become more popular and more famous among the people of Israel than Saul is. And Saul's paranoia is heightened because of all of this. And even though he has now become the king's son in law, the king would just simply rather get rid of David. David has not turned against the king. He hasn't rebelled against the king. He has not been disobedient to God or to the king in any way, shape, or form. And yet, Saul is going to seek his life. Sometimes there are going to be things that happen to us through no fault of our own. Now, yes, many times the things that happen are going to be consequences of bad choices that we've made, or problems that we have allowed to arise by the things that we have or haven't done. But sometimes things just fall the way they fall, whether you did anything to cause it or to force it or not. Here in Psalm 59, we have a situation where David talks about the fact that this is happening without any kind of transgression on his part. He hasn't done anything to cause this. He's done everything that he can to ease and to alleviate any kind of hardship that's there, and yet there's nothing he can do. The second thing I want you to notice comes down a little bit later in the psalm in verse 11, where he's asking for God to help him. He is waiting on God's assistance and on his mercy, but he makes a request in verse 11 that I find very interesting. And that is the statement, he says, "Do not slay them, lest my people forget. Scatter them by your power and bring them down, O Lord our shield." He wants God to help, but he's not asking God to kill those that are coming after him. He's not asking him to take a physical retribution upon them. Instead, he says, scatter them, move them away, spread them out, make them go away, but he don't kill them. Now, oftentimes you would think that the response would be, by whatever means necessary, take care of this. And yet, David's whole point is he wants the people to remember who God is. And he wants the people to remember and to know that, as he says in verse 13, God rules in Jacob. He has people who are searching for him. He has people who are waiting, as it were, on every street corner, even right outside his house, to arrest him. And yet he says, scatter them. Don't kill them. There is an attitude and a heart with David that does not seek out bloodshed. Now, there are times where David is going to shed blood, yes, in the midst of battle and in the midst of various other circumstances where it's necessary. But David is not bloodthirsty. He doesn't go around seeking blood to shed. David is one who seeks more than anything else for people to be mindful of and be turned to God. And so he seeks God's help, but he asks God to do it in a certain way. These are some of the things that I have seen when it comes to Psalm 59. I hope that they are beneficial to you. I know there's other things that we could talk about from this psalm that are interesting and that dive in a little bit deeper, but hopefully these will be sufficient to give you something to think about from it. Next time we'll come back and we will begin looking at Psalm 60. Thank you for joining us today, and I hope that you'll join us next time. But until then, have a great day.